Well, welcome back to Voices and Views. Today on the phone, we have a Mr. Thomas Huether from Huether, Montana, who is a Civil War reenactor, and he has an event coming to Great Falls that he wants to share with the listeners of public radio. Okay, Thomas, good afternoon. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. So what you got coming at us here?
We're having the debut of the first United States Volunteer Infantry Civil War Reenactors Group, also known as the Galvanized Yankees, are coming to Great Falls next Saturday to put on a living history demonstration in support of the 150th anniversary of the Montana Territory creation.
Okay.
We're going to be having firing demonstrations, encampments, and drill formations, and most importantly, just getting the word out there and educating people about the Civil War and what it was like to be a soldier.
Cool. Now, how many of you are going to be part of this ceremony?
Next Saturday, there'll be about 6 of us there next Saturday. A few of our individuals can't make it, but we're going to have individuals from Miles City, Forsyth, Hardin, Absaroka, Montana, Billings, and Huether.
Cool. And once again, this is going to be where in Great Falls?
It's going to be at the Great Falls Public Library. There's a little park right behind the library that we will be setting up our encampment at.
Great. Now, tell me how you got interested in this business here, in historical reenactment.
Well, it all actually began with the movie Gods and Generals. Went through and watched that movie, followed by the Ken Burns Civil War series, which really sparked my interest in the Civil War. And after that, been studying and reading it quite a bit. But after a couple of trips back east to specifically Gettysburg, Antietam, and Petersburg National Battlefields, visiting with the reenactors out there, getting contact information and shops to start picking up the gear and stuff, started putting together my outfit and gearing up to be a Civil War reenactor here in Montana.
Now, there was none of that when you first came out to do that. So you helped organize that entire movement yourself?
The first United States movement?
Here in Montana.
The Civil War one, yes.
Okay.
Yep, I've been pushing, working on this specifically. I got involved with the Indian Wars reenactors, specifically with the Battle of Little Bighorn reenactment, and started working with them to put together a Civil War group here in Montana. But there's been about 3 of us who've been key to really push on getting this together. But with everything that's out there, it always takes one person with an idea and bring those individuals on board with you.
Precisely. Now, is this your first event in Montana, or what else have you done?
This will be the first event for the Galvanized Yankees. But for all the rest of us in the group, many of us were at the 150th anniversary of Gettysburg last year, and we've also been involved, like I said, with the Custer's Last Stand, the Battle of Little Bighorn reenactment, and we partner with the Fort Casper reenactors for candlelight living history events down in Casper, Wyoming as well. But this will be our first here in Montana as the Galvanized Yankees.
Well, hopefully you'll find some more people who want to participate in it. It sounds like it's fun. It's interactive, and it's also informational to any history buffs out there. You used a term, Galvanized Yankees.
Yes.
Tell me more about a Galvanized Yankee.
The Galvanized Yankees was a term that was applied to 6 different United States regiments that were formed in 1864. Basically, what it was the Galvanized Yankees were former Confederate prisoners of war who swore allegiance to the United States and joined the Union Army. So all of the enlisted men that served in these 6 regiments that were formed were former Confederate soldiers who had been captured during the course of the Civil War, were taken to different prisoner of war camps, and that's where they were until this offer came to join the United States Army and go out west to defend the western frontier. The promise was that they would not go against their own countrymen, and so they came out west. They replaced other northern regiments to go back east and fight against the Confederates. So
How many?
they're out here.
Go ahead, Thomas.
I was saying, so they were stationed at such forts as Fort Benton, Fort Union, Fort Buford, Fort Casper. A lot of the forts that guarded the major river crossings, they had stations at.
Okay. You said that there were 6 regiments back there, the galvanized Yankees. Not all 6 came west, though, did they?
The vast more, yes, most of the 6 did, but when they were coming west, it was, I said, Montana, Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, Wyoming, Idaho. They were all over, but they weren't formed all at the same time.
I see.
The first was formed in 1864 as a 3-year regiment. The rest were organized in 1865 as 1-year regiments.
Now you say all these men came from prison camps.
Yes.
Now, there was a little incentive for them to want to go west, right? And essentially join up with the Union Army? Weren't they in pretty squalid conditions? And
They were. The life of the Civil War prisoner of war camp was not the most luxurious hotel around. At any given point, you were looking at 10% of the population in these camps dying each month.
Oh boy!
Tens of thousands of individuals were dying from desolation. Their poor food, malnutrition, lack of shelter, no medical supplies. It was a different time period back then for prisoners of war.
I would imagine that a lot of them died from infections from wounds and.
Yes, there was a lot of disease going around from wounds, from having so many men in close quarters. There's no
probably bad water too. Would you think?
Yep. Yeah, bad water. No washing. I mean, it was pretty bad conditions.
I can only dimly imagine. You had mentioned regiment. I don't think we've talked about how many men in per regiment.
In the Civil War, a regiment consisted of about 1,000 men, which included your enlisted men, your non-commissioned officers, and your commissioned officers. Of the 1,000 men, it was broken down into 10 companies, and each company roughly would have about 100 men in there to make up your full regiment. Okay.
When the regiment came, where did you say the regiment that came to Montana was based?
The first United States came from, most of the men were recruited from Point Lookout Prisoner of War Camp in Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And they came west and were stationed in, like I said, the different forts and everything. There was a company, Company H, was stationed at Fort Benton in 1865. Okay. They arrived in June of 1865.
What did they do? What was the condition? What were the status of the Indian Wars at the time?
For the most part, here in Montana, there weren't any engagements. The men were just there to protect the forts, make sure that the fur trading was going on okay, protect the interests of the corporations, the individuals who were bringing and buying for the trade business. They were mostly there to just protect the fort and have that military presence in the territory at the time. There was one major engagement down in Wyoming at Platte Bridge Station that involved the 3rd United States Volunteer Infantry. That was the only major engagement of the galvanized Yankees with the Native Americans.
But then the rest of it was just security as such?
Pretty much, just security, making sure that the telegram wires were not cut. If they were cut, going and repairing the telegram wires, protecting the trade routes, different things like that.
how long did those galvanized Yankee regiments stay out here?
Until their muster was ended. Like I said, the first was a 3-year regiment formed in 1864. They were mustered out in 1866. So they weren't out here. They were only out here till about the end of the Civil War. And once the Civil War ended in 1865, they slowly started to muster out the galvanized Yankee regiment.
Did most of them go back home, or did some of them settle?
There were some that did go home. They weren't mustered out here in Montana. Many of them were mustered out in Kansas, Fort Leavenworth. And so many of them, they did want to go back to their homes of North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. And so that's where they went. Those who didn't have any place to go out to, I don't have any records of individuals who did settle here in Montana, but I'm pretty sure that there would be quite a few individuals who would settle here in Montana or Wyoming or Idaho, wherever they could find places to live.
I see. Let's talk a little more about your event here in Great Falls at the library. What are you going to be doing?
At the event, we're going to be setting up a living history encampment. And what a history encampment is we're going to be setting up our tents. We'll have the gears of Civil War soldiers. We'll be in our garb, our period outfits. We'll be there just to interact with the public, talk about what it was like to be a soldier during the Civil War, what it was like to be out west during the Civil War, talk about our gear, our weapons, specifically our muskets, since they're almost alien to a lot of people, talking about those. And we're also going to be doing some firing demonstrations and drills, showing how the men fought back in that time period, how they loaded their weapons, what they ate, different things, just to educate the public and answer questions. And we're there just to have fun, but also bring history to life.
You actually going to fire some of these muskets there at the library, a blank rounds?
We won't actually be able to use the black powder at this event, but we will handle our weapons and use the percussion caps, which will still make a small pop, but there won't be the black powder aspect due to safety concerns. Sure.
Is it going to be like the Lewis and Clark encampment in that all of your characters will be in character in that time piece, that time element?
We won't be 100% in character. We will have our minds in the mindset of 1865, so that if some individual walks up and asks to use our cell phone, we will try to portray that we're not sure what you mean what a cell phone is, interacting with the public with their garb and whatnot. So we want to bring our mindsets back to 1865. We can't do any first-person impressions like Lewis and Clark due to the records. There's not a lot of letters, diaries, journals from the men of the galvanized Yankees, so we can't really portray them the way they should be portrayed if we were to do that. So we just go with the way just to do the historical impersonation.
Okay. You mentioned, I think in a conversation earlier, that you guys are going to be eating hardtack and period meals and.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, we'll have some hardtack on display to pass out to some individuals, the public. We're welcome to sample the hardtack, and we'll have it there to munch on as the day progresses. The food of the Civil War was different, and we want to make sure to accurately portray what they ate during the time period. There wasn't any MRE meals that modern military gets. The hardtack or salted pork was food that didn't need to be refrigerated or cooked. It was already cooked. It was something you could pop in your haversack and carry with you on a week's march.
Well, just in case there's some lady out there who wants to cook up some delicious hardtack for the man of her dreams. What goes into hardtack? Give her a recipe here that she might surprise him with.
Hardtack is pretty much flour, water, and salt. It's when you cook it, you cook it long enough so you get all the moisture out of the dough, so that it doesn't mold or anything. It's a small cracker that you can go put in carry with you as a food. We will have recipes that if individuals are desire to take home and make some of their hardtack, we will have recipes that they can cooking directions and whatnot. My quartermaster sergeant is excellent at making hardtack for events and pass out to the public.
It hardly sounds yummy, but it's probably nutritional. Did they pound it out flat, did you say, or was it like a breadstick?
It was almost like a brick cracker. It didn't break. The easiest way to cook it would be to make some coffee and dip your hardtack in the coffee, just to get some moisture into the cracker so it softens up. You wouldn't want to actually just pop the cracker in your mouth without any kind of liquid to wash it down with, because you could break your teeth or gum up in your throat.
Okay. We've only got a couple more minutes here. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you would like to bring forth?
One thing I'd have to say is we do have a website that for our unit. It's www.firstunitedstatesvolunteerinfantry.com. We've got information on the different gear, the different events that we're going to be at this coming year, a calendar of events for the next 2 years that we've got available, and a contact information sheet so that if they are interested, they're more than welcome to send some information or get more information back. If you just feel like emailing us, we do have an email address at first.usvi@gmail.com is our email account. And just a couple events that were coming up. Like I said, we have our May 31st event at Great Falls, and we will be at the Custer's Last Stand the last weekend in June 26th through the 29th. We will be having a living history encampment down there as well.
Good. You got some things to do this summer. Now, Thomas, can you give me a phone number too?
Certainly. You can reach us at 406-780-0690.
Sounds good. Let's go back over those websites and email addresses again, though. They may not have finished yet. Can you just drag it out, make it a little slower in case somebody's writing it down?
Okay. Our website, is www.first.
That's
United.
one ST?
Yes, one ST. United States Volunteer Infantry, all spelled out, .com.
Okay. And your, which was that? That was the website. How about your email?
And our email is first, the Roman numeral 1, ST, period, USVI @gmail.com.
Okay.
And just one more thing we've got is if you're on Facebook, you can find us on Facebook by using the First United States Volunteer Infantry as well.
Okay. Well, Thomas Huether of Huether, Montana, Civil War reenactor, coming to Great Falls on 5/31/14. That's next Saturday, to do a reenactment of the galvanized Yankees. So thank you very much, Thomas.
Well, thank you.